I was a corporate lawyer by trade, a precision instrument built for strategy and defense, but in the sterile, fluorescent halls of the fertility clinic, I was just Avery, a 35-year-old woman haunted by the single, cruel word my blood family had used to destroy me, Barren. For years, 5 rounds of IVF, and $50,000 invested in the dream of creating a life with my husband, Daniel. That money represented countless hours of silent pain, injected medications, and hopes that ended on cold, negative test results. What saved me from crumbling entirely was a demanding job and Daniel's unwavering support. He never wavered, but our inability to conceive created a deep, permanent vulnerability in my life. My sister, Megan, knew exactly where to strike. Our relationship, always strained by her persistent envy and lack of financial stability, had recently hit a critical point. She was fighting her ex-husband for sole custody of her 8-year-old daughter, Emma, and desperately needed my legal help. For free, of course. She called me nearly every other day, hysterically detailing her ex's malicious legal filings, and despite her years of neglectful behavior toward me, I'd started drafting memos and calling my contacts, purely for the sake of my niece, Emma. The poison struck on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Daniel forwarded an email to my work account with the subject line, "Did you see that?" The message wasn't from a stranger, it was from Megan. Her email to Daniel read, "Daniel, you need to be realistic. You guys spend so much money on that failed fertility treatment. You can't just keep hoping for a ghost baby when Emma needs you. You need to stop spending money on that barren lawyer wife and use those resources to help me save Emma from that monster ex." A cold, terrifying calm settled over me. Her desperation was understandable, but her malice was an entirely different issue. She didn't write it out of accidental thought. She chose the word barren because she knew, better than anyone, the raw depth of my inadequacy and grief over never becoming a mother. A term so archaic and wounding, used here for purely transactional, selfish ends. I walked into Daniel's office, which, ironically, he furnished with the latest tech I'd helped him purchase, and looked at him. His eyes were red, he looked physically ill. "I swear, I didn't reply," he choked out. "I just saw it, and I wanted you to see the real evil I'm dealing with from your family." "I know you didn't reply, Daniel," I told him, closing the door firmly. My voice sounded detached, not angry, just calculatingly focused. "The gloves are off. She turned this into a legal weapon, and I will treat it like one." The line she crossed defined my objective. She had attacked me where I was weakest, gambling that her family status would protect her. She had been wrong. My initial instinct was purely vengeful. I wanted to destroy her life because of that one toxic word. But I realized using the text message in court would make me look petty, vindictive, and unworthy of a judge's trust. So, I approached the problem professionally. As a corporate lawyer, I had an ethical obligation to investigate. Was I simply a pawn in Megan's ongoing cycle of destruction, or was there real danger? I made 2 calls. The first was to my litigation partner, the second was to the custody lawyer handling Megan's case, Mark. Mark was wary but professional. "Look, Avery," Mark pleaded with me. "Your sister is a mess, but her ex is worse. We have a good chance of getting her full custody. Please, we do not need family drama getting entered into the protocols here. If my sister is unfit, Mark," I cut him off, "I need to know. More than my sister's victory, I care about Emma's safety. I will consider this a private investigation into a potential client's capacity to care for a minor. Is her apartment livable?" There was a heavy pause on the line. "It's not great. She's been struggling with 2 jobs." 2 mornings later, I drove my new electric sedan, another thing Megan was desperately jealous of, to the dingy, low-income apartment building where Megan lived. I used an excuse I manufactured about picking up Emma's backpack. Megan was gone, late for one of her jobs, and Emma was sitting alone inside, shivering in an oversized winter jacket in a dimly lit, cold apartment. Warning signal 1, the apartment was disastrous. Pizza boxes piled high, $5 pizza boxes, clothing stuffed haphazardly into open moving boxes, the radiator cold to the touch. Neglect of duty toward the house, a sign of ongoing stress or, simply, a deeper issue. But a professional assessment needed more definitive proof. I started tidying up the kitchen, pretending to clean for Emma while discreetly taking quick, focused photos. In the junk drawer, I found the treasure trove. Evidence piece number 1, school records. A stack of sealed envelopes from Emma's elementary school detailing missed appointments, repeated calls made to an unanswered number about Emma almost being left behind 2 days past in the after-school program, and a letter warning of truancy due to severe lateness. The evidence of neglect. Evidence piece number 2, medical records. A single, folded urgent care visit receipt for Emma from 5 months prior. Diagnosis, bursitis and a minor contusion on the right arm, consistent with a fall down the stairs. The doctor noted visible fear when Emma was asked about the incident by her mother. The danger. Evidence piece number 3, the final nail. In Emma's messy coloring book, I found a tiny, frightened drawing, a stick figure huddled in the corner, facing a huge, yelling stick figure. Underneath, in imperfect cursive, the sentence, "Mommy's mad voice." Inadmissible in court, but definitive proof for me. The discovery was a deep, guttural turn in my stomach. The anger disappeared entirely, replaced by cold dread. This was no longer about a malicious text. This was about saving a vulnerable child who was being used as a pawn by 2 desperate people in a dangerous chess game. Megan didn't deserve to be my sister, but Emma deserved security. The custody hearing was scheduled for the end of the month. Judge Reynolds, a known conservative but deeply principled figure in family court, would preside. Mark was confident. Megan's ex-husband's lawyer was relying on the sister rivalry stereotype. "Just keep her out of it, Avery," Mark reiterated. "Any personal history makes her biased." I didn't listen. I hired a second, more assertive custody counsel, who quickly realized what I intended. We filed a motion to have me appear as an amicus curiae, a friend of the court, on my niece's behalf, given my personal discovery of exigent circumstances. The judge denied the broad amicus role but allowed me to testify as a final witness in the interest of Emma's welfare. The courtroom was chaos. Megan was an hysterical mess, sobbing about her innocence. The ex-husband looked equally desperate. Then I took the stand. I was professionally dressed, emotionless, and backed by a file stuffed with evidence that countered Megan's story of being an overworked saint. Megan's lawyer, a desperate-looking man who'd seen through my motive, tried to shut me down with the ethical angle. "Ms. Avery, isn't it true that your decision to testify in this manner is driven by the desire to secure revenge against your sister for personal, very petty texts about your family planning?" The judge, Judge Reynolds, leaned forward. "You are ordered to answer the question about your motivations, Ms. Avery." It was my legal opening. "Yes, Your Honor." Initially, I will admit, I contacted Mr. Mark, my sister's lawyer, to retaliate. My sister wrote a devastatingly cruel text to my husband calling me Barren. She crossed a severe ethical line and I admit to the immediate, human desire to see her suffer consequences. A shocked gasp ran through the courtroom. Megan, sensing blood, jumped up. "See? She admitted it. She is biased." "Silence, Ms. Megan." Judge Reynolds thundered, slamming his gavel. I turned back to the judge, calmly continuing, "However, Your Honor, my intention changed when I went to her apartment to pick up my niece's things. I can submit documents, filed this morning, detailing the severe and repeated evidence of neglect and endangerment I found. Records showing my niece was repeatedly left unsupervised, official school concerns of truancy. Documentation of physical harm that was superficially explained away, and numerous instances of environmental instability, all facts that Megan's legal team failed to disclose in this capacity assessment. My initial petty vengeance quickly elevated into an ethical duty to protect my vulnerable niece, whose best interests are not being served by either parent. I didn't introduce the hurtful Barren text. Megan, in her panicked, screaming hysteria, revealed it herself on the witness stand, crying that I was ruining her life over one mean word. Judge Reynolds had enough. The evidence I presented spoke for the voiceless child in the custody case. In his final summary, Judge Reynolds did not mention the word Barren once, but his message was unmistakable: the welfare of the minor child, Emma, is paramount. Based on the overwhelming evidence of severe and negligent behavior presented by the court's witness, Ms. Avery, particularly concerning school attendance and environmental safety, this court finds Ms. Megan unfit to provide primary custody. The gavel slammed down to seal the order. They took Emma that day. The family was immediately split down the middle. My parents, who had always been meek with Megan, called AITA for destroying my sister's life over her cruel words? I asked them privately. My mother's voice cracked. You saved your niece, Sarah. That's all that matters. Megan did this to herself. For me, the custody battle was a moral victory hidden within a personal act of vengeance. The moment I chose to pivot from simply ruining my sister to saving my niece was the moment I escaped the toxicity and regained my moral center. Vengeance led me down a dark path, but duty was the ultimate escape. 6 months after the judgment, Daniel and I welcomed Emma to live with us temporarily, a safe, clean, stable environment while we negotiated temporary guardianship through the welfare system. Our large, quiet house suddenly had a child's laughter filling its halls. More importantly, a year after the entire traumatic ordeal, fueled by the hope and stability Emma brought into our lives, my final round of IVF was successful. Megan lost custody because she prioritized her need for vengeance and money over her daughter's welfare. I gained a deeper sense of self, a clear conscience regarding the vulnerable child who needed me most, and, eventually, the child I desperately wanted. The truth is, both Megan and I committed moral trespass. Megan was financially needy and emotionally cruel. I was a vicious avenger. But when I presented my case to the only voice who mattered, the judge, I found a higher moral ground. The answer to AITA became irrelevant. I'd do it again, not for the sake of petty revenge, but for my child's safety. The money I intended to use for IVF ended up temporarily feeding and clothing my niece. The universe has a strange way of granting you mercy when you least expect it.